Today on the London Ear, I finally get to chat to Pastiche. Hello, how are you? And thank you for joining me on the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Now, we've been playing your music here for what feels like a good couple of years. You've been
Yeah.
doing your stuff now, getting it out there, and you can see the progression in your music. So for people who don't know you, how did this all start?
So, yeah, I mean, it started from day dot. I knew I wanted to be a performer. I think when you're an artistic person, like it's just something that's like innately in you. It's like an itch that you have to scratch. You can't not do it. It kills you when you can't. So I was a stage school kid. I was a Billy Barry kid, which is hilarious. I was one of those.
Did you ever
Um,
appear on the Late Late Show?
No, I didn't. I auditioned multiple times, never got the gig. But you know what though? It really taught me how to receive rejection quite young, which is something you really need in this industry. Um, but yeah, I was a stage school girl, and then I went to college in BIM in Dublin because I knew I wanted to do music, but I didn't really have a clue what to do. And it was like the only option. It was that or like classical music in Trinity, and I was like, that's not me. That is not my bag. So went to BIM, studied there, and when I was in BIM, I kind of got on the open mic scene and started really taking songwriting seriously and that sort of thing. And then I kind of decided in my final year, I was like, right, once I get this thesis out of the way, then we're doing it. We're doing music. We're gonna go for it. Like I knew I had my name, I had my, you know, my image, what I wanted to be, And then March 2020,
Oh,
we
yes.
all know what happened there. And I was like, oh, okay, so this industry that I'm trying to break into has effectively just stopped. So it was a blessing and a curse because I mean, if it was honestly, if it wasn't for the pandemic, would never have written my thesis. Let's be just dead honest. I had no choice but to sit in and write my thesis, which was on Madonna, which tells you a lot about me. But yeah, and then I mean, I didn't have work, I didn't have college anymore, and I just said to the lads that I would kind of do gigs with and stuff. I was like, hey, I'm gonna take this seriously. I'm gonna start releasing music. Do you want to do it with me? And they're like, sure, let's do it. So they're like still my session players today. One of them was my MD, and I started releasing music at the end of 2020. And it's just kind of built from there, slow build, still independent, but learned so much along the way.
So, did you not think that you would be the front person, shall we say, the person at the front of a project when you said that
Well,
once
yeah,
you
because when I was in BIM, we kind of just me, my drummer, and my guitarist, we all kind of just worked together. And then it was only then when I was like, right, I'm I'm doing this, like I'm the main gal here, like I'm a solo artist, but I knew I wanted to do it with them. So I'm very lucky that, I don't have, you know, to hire in random guitarists, random drummers every time. Like I got my boys, and I think that has also made the past couple of years so much more fun for me because we all have experienced all of our kind of first big things together. Like we've all done our first festivals together, we've all done our first international shows together. We all got to go to Barcelona and Iceland together, and it makes it so much more different when you get to do it with your friends. Um, and yeah, I'm just so lucky to have them, and they've kind of believed in me since day one. So it's always been such a huge thing of mine to make sure that they're always with me.
when you say that you did your thesis on Madonna and you listen to your music, it's not surprising
Yeah.
at all because like Madonna is whatever age she is now, but for the past 40 odd years, she has been at the forefront of female empowerment.
Mm.
Every track you seem to write, you put yourself front and center, and it's like, yay, this is me. This is, you know, if the world doesn't like me, well, tough.
Yeah, I can't. I'm quite in your face when it comes to music, which I think can be quite polarizing, specifically to straight white men. Um,
Are you,
but
But are you really appealing to?
No, I like the thing is that's it when a straight guy says to me like, "Oh, I don't like your music." I'm like, "Good, you're not meant to." Like, you know what I mean? I'm not making it for you. I'm making it for me. And I think that's the biggest thing with me is like even when I wrote, I remember the first when I was really finding my sound. I feel like every track that I've released has been a progression of my sound. And I feel like as an independent artist, you don't go through this like artist development program. You're developing as you develop and as you learn. And I remember I was writing, what was it? I wrote Paraphernalia and I brought it. I contacted so many producers and they just wouldn't produce it. They people was just straight up said, no, I'm not producing that. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, but at the same time, I knew that I loved the song. And I was like, well, then I'm just going to find a producer who will produce it and who does like it. And I did. And it's a bop. So I've kind of just taken that approach to my music and I've not really been that calculated in anything I've done. I've just kind of done what I wanted to do. And it's all kind of been a really nice blend of happy accidents while also having my head screwed on, I suppose.
It's interesting that people did not want, or producers didn't want to touch it, because if you want to portray yourself as you and they don't want to go near it, well, you don't really want to work with them anyway, do you?
Oh, I mean, straight away. And I mean, I don't think I ever contacted any of those producers ever again. And I've kind of found the people that I like to work with who are very similar to me, have very similar vibes to me, have very similar kind of life experiences as me, listen to the same music as me, and just get the vibe straight away, you know, and they're into that kind of they're into pop, they're into dance, they're into, you know, Gaga and Madonna and, you know, the minute we sit down to work on something, they just get it straight away. Where if it was someone who isn't really into that music, but they're a good producer, it can feel kind of like, oh, like you're pulling teeth trying to get the correct sound, you know?
Today on the London Ear, as the trains are passing here in Southeast London, we are playing Forfeit Control, the brand new single from Pastiche. Pastiche joins me today. Hello, hello, and thank you for
Hello, hello.
coming. So delighted to have you on the show. That's your new single. And there is a bit of a story behind the single, and I wanted to speak to you a bit about this as well, because you've been very open about the reasons behind this song. And do you want to tell people what
Yeah, sure.
you came across or how?
So Forfeit Control, I mean, the title itself is about giving up control. And I think, you know, you first hear the song and you first hear it, you think it's like, oh, just kind of giving up control of your body or giving up control of your senses. But for me, it's more about kind of giving into the universe and allowing the universe to just happen. Because I think what I've learned in the last year is that life is gonna life and things are gonna happen. So basically the long story behind it is back in November, I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis. And before that, my life had kind of just derailed, basically, and my music career had derailed from being undiagnosed and being not taken seriously by doctors and being gaslit by doctors. Um, and I mean, that had been going on and off, to be honest, for about the bulk of 10 years. But it was only in the past year or two that my symptoms got increasingly worse and really took over my life. But I luckily had surgery in November and was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis. And I think from that, I it's not something you expect at the age of 25. I was 25 at the time. And then you think, okay, well, I have this diagnosis, you know, it's incurable, it's a chronic disease, but I can live with it. And then I was told you need to freeze your eggs as well. And that's also such I didn't expect that at the age of 25 either, to be told, okay, you got to freeze your eggs. So in a weird way, I was kind of like mourning the loss of my youth because I'm looking at my friends who are in their 20s and they're, you know, going out to clubs, going out doing all this crazy stuff. They're going to work in the morning and they can go straight out afterwards and do it all, rinse and repeat tomorrow. And I'm like, whoa, sometimes like I'm so fatigued, I'm in so much pain, I can't even get out of bed. And now I'm also faced with these huge life decisions. So it was kind of like an escapism track for me about writing about these experiences of just giving up control.
I wanted to speak to you specifically about the freezing eggs thing.
Hmm.
Someone very close to me in my life went through that a couple of years ago, and they happened to be 24. Now,
Mm.
it was for a different reason than you had, but it was the same process. And you've been quite open on social media, and I have to applaud you for that because I was the person who was giving this other person the injections every day because they couldn't. Um, so I went to the clinic, learned how to do all that, all the stuff that goes on with it. But the one thing at the time, and the one thing I've said when it came up in conversation since that, is um, people don't talk about these things.
No,
So
not at all.
people don't talk about the reasons or why people have to go through these things like freezing eggs, whether it's cancer, whether it's a chronic illness, whether whatever it is, people don't talk about this. And when this happened in my circle, it was like a bombshell, to be quite honest with you,
Mm.
because we didn't know anything about it. And
Yeah.
it's important. And I applaud you for showing it on social media because people need to be educated about what actually happens in life because it's a section that we don't know anything about.
Yeah, it really is such a, and I think it goes as well with the territory of age in a weird way. I think being in your 20s, it's not, I mean, it's a thing that is done, but it's not as common. And again, I think a lot of people again associate freezing your eggs with being later in life and not finding the right partner, or, you know, wanting to preserve your fertility a couple more years. But not many people think of, say, with a certain diagnosis like either endometriosis or cancer or something like that. It's like you're hit with this bombshell diagnosis that really alters your life. And then on top of it, you're told, oh, and now you have to go through this process as well. When you kind of think, wait, I thought I got over the hurdle. I thought we got this. I thought I can now start to move on or start to make progress. And then you learn about this, and you learn quick and fast. I mean, in my situation, I was told I didn't have much time, that the time bomb was ticking, and my endo was so bad that, it's expected that it's going to progress, and I'm probably going to have multiple surgeries and stuff. So to get those eggs in the freezer. But even I went into it, I was like, oh, cool, like just freeze your eggs, not realizing, you take an injection every single day, sometimes two, sometimes twice a day. Um, and you're basically just pumping yourself full of hormones. It's a very, very um, full on process. And even then the procedure itself is, yeah, I mean, I was awake for mine. Where I went, they don't even sedate you. And you're fully awake for the procedure. And I mean, like I was going to rehearsals, doing my injection and everything, and I was like, I'm such a badass because it's it's not easy. And I think I just really wanted to share my experience because I was so gaslit by my doctors and not taken seriously by my doctors. I turned to the internet, and I turned to finding people who were in my situation or who were my age who went through this experience, and it was kind of hard. So I was like, look, if I have to go through something that's not that great, if I can at least share it and maybe help even one or two other people, selfishly I'll feel better about it, you know? And that's why I did. And it just felt kind of right for me.
I think as well, there's been for so long when you are the person that you are and you are pastiche, not only the private person, but when you are the public pastiche, shall we say as well,
Mm,
like you're, as you say, you're pretty in your face, you're out there, it's like stand up for yourself, do all that. Over
yeah.
time and over the like whatever length of time, medical teams have always just gaslit women. They've never believed, they've never, oh, go away, the manic woman kind of
Uh,
story
the
of history. Do you know what I mean?
the stories I have though, like even being, in my teens, I ended up in the A&E a lot of times due to period pains or pains that were not on my period, because another common misconception is that endometriosis is a very menstrual centric disease where a lot of the time it's actually pain off your period, in the pelvic region, but it's not always in sync with your period. And I remember I would go to A&E, that's how bad my pain was, and I would sit there for hours just to be told, you probably have IBS, here's some Buscopan. Or, oh, maybe it was a burst cyst, but there's nothing we can do about it now. So here's some anti-inflammatories. And that really makes you not trust yourself as well as the healthcare providers, because then you go home and then it happens again. And you're like, well, they told me there's nothing wrong with me. So I'm hardly going to go back up again for them to tell me I have wind. Maybe it's just wind. And I'm just being dramatic, because also we only know what's normal for ourselves, you don't know what it's like to be in someone else's body. And it's, again, it's not discussed enough. So I think it was really hard for me. I had to really, really advocate for myself multiple times. It broke me mentally, but I'm very lucky that I found a gynecologist who took me seriously.
We're very glad that you're feeling better and you know, it's, as you say, it's a chronic condition that you live with. And hopefully now that it will be under control to, and well, under control enough that will enable you to have a life that you want to lead and a life that will allow you to have a successful musical career.
Yeah, and I think that's something as well that I didn't expect. There's so many things that have come from this experience that have been quite unexpected. Um, but I think one of the big ones was this kind of weird anxiety I have now. Like, I'm so grateful to have the diagnosis, to know what's going on in my body. So when I feel a certain way, I'm like, I feel this way because, not being like, why, oh, I don't know why I feel this way. But now there is, slight fear inside me where I'm like, oh, I don't want to commit to that gig because what if I wake up that day and I'm in a flare, or I can't get out of bed, or I'm in so much pain, and I hate letting anybody down. And so I think that has been a big thing for me, is like that fear of being sick. I think that is just a chronic illness thing. Um, but also I have to understand, like, no, I can't let that stop me either. I have to just take each day as it comes and just keep trucking on and look after myself the best that I can. And again, just life is gonna life. I have to give up control. I have to just go with the flow, because the minute you try to intervene with that, life will come and hit you real quick.
So what are the plans if you're trying to, like, you don't want to force yourself, but you do want to get out there and do something. You don't want to miss the opportunities.
Hmm.
When things have been going well for you musically, you don't want to miss any opportunities that are coming along. So
Exactly.
so what are you planning, or how are you planning to deal with the next little while?
I think I'm just going to, you know, try and be as fearless as I can, because that is who I am as a person. And I think I have to switch off that little voice in my head that tells me there's something wrong with me. Because if there is, that's great. I can deal with it. I have medication. I have ways of coping. It's not the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world, and I can't let that fear of possibly being in pain stop me from doing what I want to do. And I also have an amazing group of people around me, even like my band, as I talked about. They're so amazing, and they would help me out in any way they could. So,
Yeah,
so I,
how sorry for interrupting you. How are
mm,
the blokes dealing with this actually?
they think I'm the best. No, I mean, it's been so educational for them as well. Because it's opened. I mean, we're very close, but like it's opened really, really interesting conversations for them to have with their own families and their own partners. And it's given them a real insight into, you know, women, I suppose, because I mean, when you're in school, I don't know what it's like now, but like when you're in school and you're learning about periods and reproductive systems and all this stuff, it's like you're first of all, the boys are just not in the room, so they haven't got a clue. And then you're just told, oh yeah, this is your period, this is what happens. And you don't wear a tampon when you swim because you don't bleed. Like it just baloney. Like they don't tell you, again, this is my experience from being in school back in what, like the 2000s, but from the limited knowledge that I got in an educational setting, the lads have even less. So it's been very educational, and I think it's kind of made us all closer, and it's made us understand each other a lot better.
Really interesting and good. And like this has been tough for you, but there's so many good things that are happening as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, from this experience, I mean, ever since my surgery, I felt like a different person. And that was in November. And I think for the 2 months post surgery, like I hadn't written in a year. Since I when I dropped appetite, I just dropped off the face of the earth because my health just got so bad. And I kind of thought, oh, this is the end for me. I'm never gonna pick up the pieces, essentially. And then when I did get my surgery, I wrote like 30 songs in 2 months. Like just I couldn't even stop it. And then I realized, okay, no, this is actually something I need to do. Like this is just me. Whether everyone listens, whether no one listens, it's just what I need to do. It's what I love. And again, from this whole experience, that's how one of my favorite tracks ever, Forfeit Control, came to be. And I think it's such a step up in not only like my songwriting quality, but like the production element. And I feel so much more sure of myself. And I feel so much more myself, I suppose. I don't know. I think that comes with age as well. But for something, I'm just really glad that something that I'm really, really proud of has come from something that, I mean, would be seen to be quite dark, I suppose.
It has been lovely chatting to you here on the show. Thank you so much for being so honest and so open because um, we're going to put the video of this conversation online as well because I think this is really important and it's important that people talk about it and it's important that we have people like yourself who are going to be open about these situations. Chronic illness of any kind is an absolute pain in, well, it's a pain in different parts, shall we say. Um, and for any of our listeners who don't know me, I actually have some sort of an autoimmune disease. I've had it for a number of years, and I too take medication every day. And if I don't, I get really bad pains and
Mhm.
I get chronic fatigue and stuff like that. And it can be quite like I understand completely when you said that you don't want to let people down. Even going to gigs some nights, for me personally, one of the big things that I have done to make my life better is to try and work remotely so I can do fun things in the evenings and at weekend,
Yeah.
stuff like that, because the commuting was killing me. So that made me really, really tired. So little things like that, sometimes people have to adjust, but a lot, it's important that people who do suffer from chronic illness or whatever, chronic pain of whatever type it is, do talk about it because other people, you never know when that is going to land on your own doorstep.
Mm.
And whether it's you or a partner or a parent or whoever it happens to be, it can, you don't have to be particularly sick or anything. Anything can happen to anyone at any stage. And I think
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
really important that we all have that level of knowledge that we respect and that we can support each other. No, it doesn't matter who it is, that we can all support each other.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's so important as well, just for people listening. It's like endometriosis isn't this like crazy, crazy rare thing either. It is as common as diabetes. 1 in 10 women have this disease, but it is so under researched, it's so underfunded, it's so under, I mean, it's underdiagnosed because the doctors are uneducated on it themselves. Like I was literally told, oh, you have period pain, well, have a baby because you won't be in pain. I swear to God, I was told have a baby because you won't be in pain for 9 months.
It's what they used to tell. I remember
Yeah.
someone else that in like first year or second year in school, they're like, "Oh, what about period pains?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, have a baby. It won't be as bad after." I remember.
It's oof, it's it's really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And that's why it's, from day one, it's been so important for me to talk about this because it's just something apart from music, like I'm just really, really passionate about this subject.
Thank you so much, as I said, for coming along and being so open and honest with us here today. Your new single is Forfeit Control. It's out now. If people want to find out more about you and your work and what you're getting up to and how things are going for you, where's the best place for them to head along to?
So you can listen to all my banging tunes on Spotify and Pastiche. And everywhere on social media, I'm at Who is Pastiche, and that's where I share my music, as well as my story with endometriosis and my egg freezing journey.
Thanks a million for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.